Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. I hope your squads are all coming along nicely. Today we're going to take a quick look at some of the things that we can do to prepare for the raid. Now, they haven't given us a whole heap of information, but they may have given us just a few little clues that we can work with to start putting a few squads together that might be really effective once that raid does drop. But before we get into it, I do want to just say a quick thank you to all you guys out there in the community. You guys have been really great, really supportive. Keep hitting that subscribe button. We got a long way to go on this journey, so things are only just starting to heat up. Now, in terms of the raid, it does look like we are going to get a couple of months to prepare for that. So the Elrond event will be the first thing to drop in the game. If you can get him, I'm sure he will be a really good character to have once that raid does come around. Now, one thing that we did learn from Galaxy of Heroes when they first dropped that Rancor raid is that characters can be from all over the place. There isn't necessarily a formula that you're going to have. It's more about which individual characters are going to be the most effective against the bosses in each chapter of that raid. So if you do remember back, the first hero that was really good and allowed guilds to go and finish that raid and even allow players to solo that raid was actually a lone Ewok that was in the starting roster, which was Tebow. And the reason that he was so effective was because on his third ability, he was able to reduce the turn meter of the boss by 100%. So if you were lucky enough for that to proc every time, the boss would never actually get a turn, and that would allow the rest of the team to be able to do the damage required to beat the boss. Now, currently in this game, there aren't very many characters out there that have turn meter reduction, and the ones that do have it, I think 25% is about the most that you're going to get. I could be wrong, there may be some with a little bit more, but it's not a great deal of turn meter reduction and probably not enough to build a squad around. Now, there were a few little clues that they did drop. Now, first of all, we're not going to get the entire raid at once. They will drop additional chapters over time, so we're going to get a chance to be able to build squads for that first chapter and find out exactly what does or doesn't work within that team and for that particular boss. Now, the thing that they did also mention is that there will be a cave troll. So I would imagine that the raid will start in Balin's tomb when that cave troll makes its way into the tomb, and that will be the first boss that we will come across in that first chapter. Now, there's not really much that we can go by other than knowing that it's a troll. But because we do have trolls in the game already, and a few large creatures at the same time, we know that there is one thing that they all have in common, and that is one of their passive abilities, if you can call it that, where it gives you the buffs and debuffs that a large creature will have. Now, this is something that I do believe that the cave troll would have as part of his kit. So the first part of this is looking at the damage reduction. They'll take 20% less damage from enemies with daggers or staves. So they're the kind of characters that we're going to steer clear of unless we're using them as healers or as some other type of support for the team. But you're probably going to want to take at least 3, maybe 4 characters in there that do have the bigger weapons, because the next part will tell you that they will take 25% more damage from Two-Handed Sword or Two-Handed Heavy weapons. Now, we'll take a look at some of those characters in a second, but the other thing, they also have 15% extra max health, 15% damage, and they're also 10% slower. Now, just because they are a boss, you would expect that they would have a lot more health and a lot more damage just naturally in the build of the character, but if they do have that little bit less speed, maybe having characters that can reduce speed, as well as maybe even that little bit of turn meter reduction, if we can get that, that could really help in controlling the battle. So first, if we have a look at the Two-Handed Heavy weapons that we've got out there, we can see some pretty impressive characters already in those first 3. Halbarad, Bolg, and Gruher can all do a heap of damage. Now the problem that we're also going to have is getting them up to those extra star levels so that we can take on those more difficult chapters and really reap the benefits of the raid. Now the easiest one that we can farm in there is going to be Edric. Because he is in those guild nodes, it wouldn't be hard to actually farm him all the way up to 7 stars if you needed to. When it comes to Bolg and Halbarad, you're probably going to have to focus on one or the other. Now Bolg is definitely someone that can deal a heap of damage really quickly, but one thing that you need to take into account when it comes to raids is keeping your team alive. So Halbarad is also going to be one of those characters because he does have that heal and he does have those weapons that can do the extra damage. He could be someone that is quite viable for this raid. Another one that I haven't unlocked yet because I'm not quite up to that chapter is Philly. Now he's going to take quite a while to be able to grind out up to those higher star levels, and even to unlock him you need 45 shards, so he's going to unlock at 2 stars. But if you can get that guy unlocked, up and running, he is going to be essential for that team because he is also a healer. Now the other one that is on this list here is Azak. Now he is one guy that can really smash out some damage. He is a little bit harder to farm, but this could be one area of the game where he will actually be quite useful. But if I'm going to build a squad that I want to build right up to 7 stars just so that I can take on those harder levels, Edric is going to be one of those characters that you may want to consider farming for this, simply because he will be part of a 7-star team just so that you can start posting some damage on those higher levels. Now if we have a look at the Two-Handed Sword list here, first one we've got there is Aomer. Now the reason he could be really handy to have is mainly because of his ability to assist. So if he's going to be doing extra damage because of his weapon, and if you max out his passive ability, he's just going to continue to assist every attack. The other advantage to him is he is available in the arena store, the same as Shagrat, who's also on this list. Both of those guys are going to be very easy to farm. You get plenty of tokens so that you can just farm the both of them if you want to. Another advantage to having Aomer in the team though is he does also get that Rohan attacker that he can summon into the battle, and even though they aren't really going to last very long, that little bit of extra damage that you might get out of them is always going to help in just chipping away at the health of the boss. The next one on the list here is Strider. Now Strider, I have a very strong feeling he is going to be needed to unlock Elrond, so you're going to have him already at least at 5 stars just to attempt that event. If you've already got someone up to that level, then they're always going to be helpful. But because he might be doing the extra damage to a large creature, it's just going to make him even more appealing to put into that team. He's also very strong in arena through the chapters, so a lot of players are probably going to have him all ready to go. So why not just keep taking him up to that next level, keep gearing him, keep leveling him up, make sure that he's one of your strongest characters, because he could be a really key component to a raid team. The next one on this list here, you've got Dunhar and Wex, both of which could have their uses. Dunhar does have that extra heal for the most wounded character in the team. If you do have him already, if you're building up an Urukai team, then keep farming him. There's nothing wrong with that. Wex is one of the interesting ones though, because he does have quite a lot of damage potential as well as counterattacks. So this could be something that is viable for the raid, but only time will tell at this stage. He will take quite a while to grind up to those 5, 6 or 7 stars. But onto our leader options. First one we've got here is Ugluk. Now because he is the very first chapter of the guild nodes, a lot of players have already got him for their arena squads and also for the chapters, simply because of his leadership ability, which allows Isengard members, as soon as they place a Bane on an enemy, they will heal the entire squad for a small amount of health. So if you are able to add Dunhar and Azak to the team for that bonus damage from their weapons, you're also going to be adding some extra debuffs to the boss and providing that passive heal for the entire team throughout the battle. But if you opt for Shagrat as the leader, this allows every single person in the squad to gain turn meter by attacking a target with a Bane on them. If it's a Mordor squad member, they can gain up to 16% additional turn meter, or for every other ally it'll be 8% turn meter. So gaining that extra turn meter is always going to be an advantage, especially if your opponent is a little bit slower, allowing you to get those extra attacks in just that little bit faster. Some other characters that you might want to consider might be someone like Nuraz, for the simple fact that he can summon a Troll Stonebreaker into the team as that 6th member. This actually has a couple advantages. Number one is that Troll is also going to have a large weapon for the extra damage, as well as providing that provoke so that some of your bigger damage dealers have a better chance of surviving to do that extra damage. And that leads me to the next one, everyone's favorite troll in the game right now, Gaza. He is a tank in every sense of the word. We know how much damage this guy can do, as well as his ability to soak up damage. So if Nuraz is in the team, he is also going to provide provokes to Gaza, so that way he can take some of that damage for the rest of the team. He is also someone who is very easy to farm all the way up to 7 stars, at least by shards, not by the gold to promote him, but that's a completely different story. But the ability to farm someone that quickly is always going to be an advantage for anything that requires those star levels to get into those higher tiers. And that again will lead me to the next person that I'll add to this list, and that is Pippin. He is so easy to get to the 7 stars. He is a pretty decent healer, especially once you get that ability up to the maximum level. He also provides the might that is going to allow your attackers to do the extra damage. But on top of that, because he is part of that Road to Rivendell team that I truly believe will be what you need to unlock Elrond, you're going to be able to double up and not only use him for Elrond, but also use towards the raid. He may not be the best character, but if you've already got him at 7 stars, it's going to be a decent starting point until we know exactly who is going to replace some of these characters in the squad. The last one that I might just give a quick mention to would be Grimpa. The simple fact that he is in the guild nodes, very easy to farm all the way to 7 stars if needed, just to make up a full squad that you could have to take on those higher levels. But because he is a taunt character, he's going to be able to soak up some of the damage, again, just to allow some of those big hitters to do their job. You will need a pretty decent healer in the team though, just to make sure this guy stays alive long enough to keep doing what he does best. But he could be decent at the beginning, at least until we get some better characters in the game, or at least up to that 7-star level, so that you can replace him in the squad. As we get more information on the raids and we can really narrow that pool of characters down to say that this is who we should be farming and who we shouldn't be farming, hopefully this is some information that might give you some kind of direction if you're a little bit unsure of where to put your resources at this point in the game, and hopefully put yourself in a good position once the first chapter of that raid does become available. That's it for this one, guys. Don't forget, like and sub, you know the deal. There's plenty more Heroes of Middle-earth action coming your way. Don't miss out, and we'll catch you in the next one.